And if it's Tuesday, it's a big deal today. We're launching something big here at Meet the Press and across all the platforms at NBC News. It's the start of a year-long reporting project across the country, county to county, we call it, to take you inside the most important, often most misunderstood political story in America. The amazing political realignment this country is going through. The project will take the pulse of the American electorate. We're going to focus in 7 counties, 7 different political storylines, and 7 presidential battleground states that have 7 very competitive midterm Senate races. See where we're going here? All of it begins today, 1 week out from the Virginia governor's race. We're going to crisscross the country. The NBC reporting team's on the front lines of our county to county project coming up.
Very interesting day.
Look, the Virginia governor election it's essentially, think of it as that amazing preseason college football game that features the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. Maybe they'll end up facing again, but it actually counts. Well, this one counts, and it is the beginning of the midterm cycle, if you will. So we're going to dive in. We're going to take our first look.
Very interesting time.
Believes the virus could have emerged from a lab accident in Wuhan, China, but
free thinking, innovative, totally open-minded, guys. That's Tommy Nation Politics. This is Election Day. This is Election Day, guys. Election Day. It's a very interesting day for our country. Through fervent rebellion, through promises of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, our nation was brought forth, one of the first democracies of its time. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Good? Well, I hope so. Because today, guys, today is Election Day.
Every 4 years, the people of the United States are asked to vote for their choice of president. By law, the maximum a president can stay in office is 8 years, meaning that if Donald Trump wins the 2020 election, his next 4-year term would be his last. There are only 2 main parties, conservative right-wing Republicans and the liberal left-wing Democrats. Each party votes for whom they want to represent them in the election at their respective conventions. The current president has always been revoted to run again by his party, and so is Trump for the Republicans. The Democrats' representative, Joe Biden, is hoping to become the 46th president of the United States. Once each party has their candidate, they then choose a running mate who will be their vice president if they win the election. Together, they're known as a ticket. Each candidate usually then travels all across the country to gain as much support as possible. Every state has assigned electors, known as the Electoral College, to carry out the votes of the people, with each state having a certain number of electoral votes based on that state's population. Both candidates usually attend huge rallies, spending most of their time in swing states like Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Although this year, there are much smaller rallies and public campaigning because of COVID-19. Donald Trump was infected with COVID-19 on October 2nd, halting his campaigning and putting him in quarantine for 2 weeks. These campaigns cost millions of dollars, so they have massive campaign teams to help them raise this money. On Election Day, which is November 3rd this year, the people vote for their presidential choice in the popular vote. The chosen electors in all but 2 states will vote for whoever has received the majority of the votes in their state in a winner-takes-all system. For instance, if Florida had only a 100-vote majority for Biden over Trump, that state would still give all of its 29 electoral college votes to Biden. Maine and Nebraska are the only 2 states that use a different system where they can split their votes based on the popular vote. There are 538 electoral votes up for grabs, and the first past the 270 votes mark will be officially confirmed as president on January 20th, 2021.
Hurt the Bible, hurt God.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics. Yes, it's a day like any other day, except this was the fruits, the reaping of the fruit of the tree of liberty. Elections, guys. It was the first time in that era, a feudalist era, when nobles and kings ruled all, and their property was not only their castles, but also the people, the serfs, their kingdom. We were one of the first democratic republic to step out of the shadow of feudalism of kings and rulers, and to recognize and reflect on the Creator who made us in the image of Himself and the inalienable rights to which He gifted us with. It's a great day, guys. It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be a citizen of this country. It's a great day in the United States of America.
A new national poll paints a troubling picture of an American electorate worried about the future of democracy, sharply divided on issues of personal freedom and dissatisfied with President Biden's leadership. Here to walk us through the results is Ann Selzer. She is the president of Selzer and Company, which wrote the poll in collaboration with Grinnell College. Ann Selzer, welcome back to the NewsHour. It's very good to see you. A number of striking things here to ask you about, starting with this question about people's trust in our democracy. You have, in what we find in these results, is a majority of Americans saying that they believe democracy is facing a major threat. And we see that number driven by Republicans. 71% of them think that's true compared to 35% of Democrats.
Election day. Last election, we experienced a very lengthy, dramatic scenario, and I'm hoping that none of the other elections ever are like that. However, most of Congress is on the chopping block. The Senate and House of Representatives, most up for re-election, throwing up their issues to the American people, making sure that they're memorable and conservative if need be, or liberal if need be. But in all the hustle and bustle of the election season, guys,
Whatever think
in
even
all of
possible.
who are you going to vote for? Oh, you're going to give us all Trump because you're one person and your vote counted so bad. If it wasn't for the guy that I wanted to vote for, yes, now it's a time, guys, of spin, of logical fallacies. A few months back, the Republican chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, he rejected a subpoena issued to the Arizona Republicans, and he said that we're all in Never Never Land. The elections in the Georgia area and Arizona area were interesting last year, and that proceeded to give birth to spawn 1 million audits, which even the House Republicans are disdainfully reflecting on. They don't want any more audits. No more audits for the puppets of the rich, guys. Dominion voting systems, far-right conspiracy theories, fraud in the presidential election last year. Now we've got mostly everybody in the Senate and the House, and I have my instincts, or rather, my guesses, my estimations of who's going to stay. Only the strong survive. Only the strong survive. In political language, the strong are the most disgusting, the most perverse, the most soulless cyber ninjas of legislative lying.
We remain confident that a final deal is within reach. Doing big things in Congress is always hard. But we didn't choose elected office just to pursue the easy things. We came here to do the hard things, the important
We'll
things.
Stay. The good guys don't win in this scenario, guys. It's been botched.
Democrats moved Tuesday to put the final touches on a deal to invest up to $2 trillion in social programs and climate policy, as they try to cap a months-long slog to pass their economic agenda.
While everyone else was being ruled by monarch, by a noble, in a feudalist era, where people couldn't even hunt in the king's lands and travel the king's road. Out of many, one. To work for the common good. E pluribus unum. With life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, guys. Life. Liberty. Happiness. Happiness. And life. What happened to life? And what happened to our inalienable rights? And what happened to the Constitution? What happened to the beginning of our country? Ever since the first election.
Lawn signs sprouting everywhere. Round-the-clock ads on radio and television. The phone rings. It's a robocall from the president or his opponent asking for your money and your vote. And while you're at it, watch their YouTube videos and like them on Facebook. Election time. We all know the look and feel of modern campaigns. But what was it like in the early days of the Republic when, say, George Washington ran for office? Well, in fact, he didn't run. When Washington became the first president in 1789, there were no political parties, no conventions or primaries, no campaign, no election season, not really any candidates. Even the year was odd. Literally, 1789 was the only presidential election ever held in an odd year. After the framers invented the Constitution and the presidency 225 years ago, the country set about the business of choosing its first executive. Agreeing with Ben Franklin, many people thought, the first man at the helm will be a good one, and by that, Franklin meant George Washington. Greatest hero of the Revolution, Washington presided over the convention that created the Constitution. Rarely speaking, he never discussed the job of president or of wanting it. And when the first presidential election took place, it was a crazy quilt affair with many hands stitching the pattern. Under the new Constitution, each state was given a number of electors who would cast a vote for two names. The man with the most votes would be president. The second place finisher was vice president. Ah, but who picked the electors? That was left up to the states. 6 of them let the people decide, or at least white men over 21 who owned property. In New Jersey, some women voted, a right later taken away. But in other states, the legislature picked the electors. At that time, many people thought democracy was one step away from mob rule, and a decision this important should be left to wiser men. These electors then voted for president. All the states had to do was get their votes in on time. But there were glitches. Only 10 of the 13 states voted. Rhode Island and North Carolina hadn't ratified the Constitution and couldn't vote. New York missed the deadline for naming its electors and also was not counted. When the votes were tallied, it was unanimous. George Washington won easily. John Adams trailed far behind, finishing second, and became the vice president. Told of his victory, George Washington was not surprised. At Mount Vernon, his bags were already packed. He moved to New York City, the nation's temporary capital, and he would have to figure out just what a president was supposed to do. Since that first election, American democracy have come a long way. The Constitution has been changed to open up voting to more people, black men, women, Native Americans, and 18-year-olds included. Getting that basic right extended to all those people has been a long, hard struggle. So when you think you can't stand any more of those lawn signs and TV ads, just remember, the right to vote wasn't always for everyone.
What happened to the American life in this country, guys? What happened to human rights? You know, human rights is supposed to be about protecting those fundamental freedoms, guys, which are the foundation of justice and peace in this world. And if you don't have justice, you don't have peace. If you don't have life, you don't have nothing. Why are you alive if you don't got life? The rights to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, respecting everyone, because out of many, one common good, guys. But since March, in very draconian ways, our civil liberties have been slipping asunder. Why? Democrats, Republicans. Not in the Constitution, guys. And while the Democrats and Republicans, guys, continue their gang-banging struggle for power, the pat answer to the questions of our fundamental freedoms are subject to exceptions and derogations. Indeed, the European Convention, guys. Remember when we got together with Europe and caveated the most fundamental freedoms? Because we wanted to be a nation of the free, a land of the free, a home of the brave. Remember that? Beautiful for spacious skies, amber waves of grain, guys. We didn't want the world to restrict public health. Now what are we doing, guys? Not giving Medicare for all during a pandemic. And ever since March 2020, guys, the fundamental rights have, well, let's just say mandates and bandwagon mentality have trumped, pun intended, the my body, my choice argument from the liberals, and not a peep out of the libertarian-esque Republicans, who always refer to themselves as libertarian, even though they're both parties are puppets of the rich, guys. A virus, just like this COVID pandemic. Undoubtedly, guys, the protecting of life and the liberty, guys. It must be seen in what? Watering the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants and patriots alike.
Mr. Swallow.
Thank the chairman for this important hearing, and this is an important topic, but I think the most urgent and important issue facing the workforce today are the terrorizing attacks that are happening globally, which are referred to as anomalous health incidents. And I guess my first question, Director Burns, considering that we are not doing this to our own people, they are not doing this to themselves, public reports suggest they're happening in an escalating fashion worldwide. Can we stop calling them incidents and call them attacks?
Well, what I know, Congressman, having talked to dozens and dozens of my colleagues who've been victimized, is that real harm is being done to real people. And we take each report very seriously. I know all of my colleagues do across the intelligence community. I think we've worked very hard to improve care, the care that our officers and sometimes their family members deserve. And we have mounted an extraordinarily vigorous effort to get to the bottom of the questions of who and what may be causing these as well. And so we're going to work as hard as we can to come up with, to get to the bottom of this and come up with answers to those questions. And I know that's a conviction that's shared amongst all of my colleagues on this panel.
Director, we don't often have open hearings, but perhaps the individuals or the country responsible for these attacks are watching. And I wonder if you have a message for those who are conducting these attacks as to what we will do when we find out who is doing this.
Well, Congressman, as I said, we take extraordinarily seriously the harm that's being done, and we are determined to get to the bottom of this. And I don't think anyone should doubt the sense of urgency that we have or our determination to do that. We owe it to you. We owe it to the president to be disciplined and objective and balancing that with our compassion and our sense of urgency as well. And that's what we're determined to do as well as we conduct this very serious investigation.
And we owe it to the victims across the IC, the State Department. And I know you're doing that. And, you know, it took about 10 years to find and hunt down Osama bin Laden with, you know, a workforce that was dedicated to it. And I hope the same effort is being made to find out who does this. And when we do find out who does this, I think you'll find bipartisan support that this is going to be a response that is beyond, if it's a foreign country, just closing down a couple consulates, that it is going to have to be a very, very severe response.
And that was that was its manure. It's like Peter Pan, like the Wizard of Oz. Political and social commentary can be discounted in children's books and fairy tales, guys. But in this present moment, you're about to see the politics, the storybook come to life. And all of the things that you couldn't believe would happen are happening. Except they're nightmares. There's no justice. There's no voice. There's no working for the common good. It's a pro-isolationist, heavily academia overlooked, fundamental social disease.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And
lack of free thinking cirrhosis. Lack of free thinking cirrhosis. So this election season, I've been wondering what's been happening to freedom, guys. Human rights, liberty, 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 liberty. The autonomy of our bodies, our choices that we make, given to us by inalienable rights, our free will given to us by God Himself. Yes, these are now being interfered with by coronavirus mandates and draconian legislation that stifles the popular sovereignty that we came to be founded on. What do you think, guys? I don't know, man. Look, buddy, look fat. Lawn signs sprouting everywhere. Round-the-clock ads on radio and television. The phone rings. It's a robocall from the president. Hey, you know the thing. Look that. Or maybe his opponent, asking you for money and your vote. And while you're at it, watch their YouTube videos. Like their TikToks. Subscribe to them on Instagram. Election time. We all know the look and feel of modern campaigns. It's technocratic. It's monumentally mass sociable. It's the conventional wisdom. It's the social norms, guys. Can you imagine when, in 1789, the first election of the presidency of the United States happened? 1789 was an odd year, literally. There were no political parties, no conventional wisdom, no social norms, no primaries, no campaigns, no election season, not really any candidates. Even the year was odd. 1789 was the only presidential election ever held in an odd year. And the framers invented the Constitution and the presidency almost 225 years. George Washington had a unanimous vote in his election, guys. Under the new Constitution, each state was given a number of electors and it would cast a vote for two names. And the founders specified that the runner-up of the election would be the vice president, and help and work together for the common will, together as a country. V pluribus unum. Yep. Who picked the electors? It was up to the states. Who were the states? Wealthy, white, rich people. These rights were not for everyone. Now they are. Now we have the promise to fulfill a promise long non-kept. When the 13 states voted for the first time for the presidential election, guys. Even Rhode Island and North Carolina hadn't even been ratified into the Constitution as states of the Union. New York missed the deadline for voting, and so New York wasn't counted. So that's an interesting thing to think about. George Washington was elected unanimously, but Rhode Island and North Carolina couldn't vote because they weren't ratified yet, and the electors of New York could not because they missed the deadline. Well, George Washington won easily, and John Adams trailed far behind, finishing second and became the vice president. Told of his victory, George Washington was not surprised. At Mount Vernon, his bags were already packed. He moved to New York City, the nation's temporary capital, and he would have to figure out what a president was supposed to do. What a commander-in-chief of the armed forces, how they were supposed to behave. And that attitude, that office would be respected. It's now October of 2021, guys. The 2020 election's over. The audits are done. Trump's out of office. Biden hasn't changed or affected any change at all. Nothing has fundamentally changed. Where does that put you? Where does that leave the American people? I say in an opportunity or in a disappointment. Tommy Nation Politics. Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?